When I imagined old asylums and the people within their walls, I imagined people with bulging eyes, tied up in straitjackets, and constantly screaming in agony. I now know that asylums in the 19th century were about more than chaos. They actually had a strong emphasis on order. Psychiatrists like Philippe Pinel promoted what was called the moral treatment approach to psychiatric practice. This approach was based on arranging and administering a disciplined routine in hopes of curbing uncontrolled impulses without cruelty or unnecessary punishment. It was designed to replace brutal 17th century practices where the insane often suffered physical restraint, punishment, and confinement in jailhouses and exorcisms by priests. The moral treatment was based on the idea that insanity had a natural, as opposed to supernatural, origin, so it could be cured. Psychiatrists thought that cures came from the architectural design of facilities and by regulating every aspect of patients' lives. Inside the walls of the asylum, patients' meals, labor, sleeping, and activities were routinized. Psychiatrists thought that regulating behavior would in turn regulate and restore the minds of patients. Asylum programs strongly believed in the prompt removal of the insane from the community. Those deemed insane were taken from their families, and asylums were built far away from city centers. Isolation of patients was seen as tricky to achieve because families often wanted to visit, though these visits were seen as debilitating to the patient's recovery process. The moral treatment was also highly gendered. Broader cultural ideas about acceptable behavior for women led doctors to believe certain activities would cure women's insanity. White Victorian women's experiences in asylums were shaped because of their gender and societal expectations. Elaine Showalter, an expert on women's experiences in asylums, states the ladylike values of silence, decorum, taste, service, piety, and gratitude were made an integral part of the program of moral management of women in Victorian asylums. For white Victorian women, this meant that they were subjected to participating in activities such as laundry, sewing, and cooking. Women were also not allowed to spend much time outside or socializing with one another. Some women did not respond well to these impositions. Explaining why women in asylums resisted, Elaine Showalter argues that excessive confinement that replicated the feminine role outside the asylum may have contributed to the excitability and restlessness of asylum women, thus proving that the strict regulation of patients' lives did not actually lead to curing them and may have done the opposite. As someone who wants to go into the mental health field, I found the history of psychiatry to be surprising and eye-opening. Understanding what asylums were like in the past has made me question the idea that order is synonymous with healing. With this knowledge, I hope to think carefully about the limitations of creating highly regimented healing environments and question the role culture plays in how we treat mental illness.